Hi, everyone. I'm Time National Political Correspondent Molly Ball, and here with me is the one and only Speaker Emerita of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. Welcome, Madam Speaker. So let's kick it right off. The President announced his re-election campaign this morning. What did you think of the announcement, and how do you like his chances?
Well, I thought it was very early in the morning, especially one on California time, but I was very excited about the President announcing. I think that his record of performance is something that we have some more work to do, and we want him to go forward. But when we're making a judgment about such things, what is the vision of that person? What is the knowledge and judgment of that person? What is the strategic thinking of that person? And what does that person have in his heart about connecting with people, empathy? All of that is Joe Biden. When Jerry Brown was running for governor, when he was running for Secretary of State and governor way back when, he said, we need new blood. When he ran for governor again later, he said, there's no substitute for experience. And I do think that experience as President of the United States with judgment and values and empathy is really important. So I'm very excited about his running.
How do you like his chances? Do you think he's going to win?
Okay, let's have this applause line.
Do you think he has a good chance of re-election? I mean, the majority of Americans, according to polls, even the majority of Democrats would prefer that he not run again.
Well, the Republicans, of course, don't. But in terms of the Democrats, I know a little bit about that because I go to their meetings all over, and yes, they'd rather he'd be younger, but they're all for him. Then people are going to say, everybody's going to be on board. I mean, there's little, shall we say, sidebar stuff, but by and large, people understand. There's so much at stake in this election that it's really important for us to go full strength, Joe Biden.
How has your working relationship been with him since he was elected nearly 4 years ago?
Excellent, because his agenda that he campaigned on was the caring agenda, was the fairness agenda, was an agenda about justice. It was about the future, about our children, about saving the planet, and having a more just economic and system for them, and to have their freedoms respected and the rest. So when we would be writing legislation or persuading people, shall we say, about legislation, I'd say to him, you know, one of the things really important in this bill is, and he'd say, you don't have to tell me. I wrote that. I campaigned on that. That's what we must pass. And we had an enormous success, says she immodestly. But his leadership was so very important. And it is an agenda about, I mean, nothing has happened like the IRA. The $368 billion to save the planet, And again, so many things that he did in terms of expanding the Affordable Care Act, child tax credit, so many things that now we have to do again, and winning the election is essential to that. And I see it as something that will win the White House, will win back the House. Everybody thought we were going to lose 40 seats. We lost 5. I would rather have 1. But nonetheless, we'll have to pick up some in New York. We lost a lot in New York at that time. But nonetheless, win the Senate, win the White House, and win the Senate by enough to pull back the filibuster, pull it back so that it takes 51 votes to protect our elections, to pass Roe v. Wade, to do all of the things, to protect our dreamers and the rest. 51 votes. And that requires us to win a couple more Senate seats so that, that we go from 60 to 51.
And the President, in his announcement this morning, talked quite a lot about the struggle for democracy and democratic values. Yeah. What do you perceive right now as the biggest threats, both at home and abroad, to democracy?
Well, there is obviously globally, and has its own manifestation in our country, the struggle between autocracy and democracy. And my view is that it's all about, in our country, about money. When we talk about democracy in our own country, we want young people to think in terms of democracy that is there for them. And I think that one great thing we can do is to reduce the role of big, dark money in politics. And that gives people more confidence that their voice will be heard and their vote will be much more important. So as we, look, just think of it. Our founders, they were so brilliant. They founded a country unlike any before, founded on the inevitability of every person being created equal. However, our original establishment document did not have that in it, but it had the wisdom to be amendable. So while, therefore, over time, we could expand freedom, abolish slavery, expand the right to vote to black men, then to all women, and the list goes on up until the decision on marriage equality. And ever expanding freedom and recognition of it until the Dobbs decision. You turn from expanding democracy to limiting it. And that's just wrong. How these justices are going to tell women about their choices in life when it was the privacy is in the Constitution and the precedent is there from the court. So something wrong with this court that they would reverse their own precedent and ignore the Constitution of the United States. So we have to show people that is what the fight is about. Your freedom, your kitchen table issues. Timing of a family, or to have it or not to have it, is a kitchen table issue, as are issues that relate to education and fairness in the workplace, equal pay, equal work, and the rest. But some of the obstacles to that spring from big, dark, you think that big, dark money isn't preventing us from having universal background checks for gun safety in our country? Or isn't keeping us from doing even more to protect the planet? Or the cost of prescription drugs? People see that. They see the connection between money and obstacles to having a better and fairer way of life in our country. So when we're talking about democracy as the beautiful vision of our founders and the expansion of it over time, we have to also protect it in the present by making democracy free. It's about freedom from big, dark money suppressing the vote on protecting the planet, as I mentioned, gun safety, gun violence protection, and the rest of that.
I want to get a little personal because you recently gave up your longtime role as the leader of the House Democrats. And now you're just a regular rank and file member representing San Francisco. What's that been like? Are you enjoying it?
I mean, all of the honors that I've received for 20 years, or some of you even born, for 20 years, I was either leader or speaker. That's one of the top 4 positions in the House, Senate, Democratic and Republican, and either majority or minority, but the top 4 for 20 years. And so, but I've said to my members and my constituents, while all of these honors have been great, even before that whip, leader, speaker, back and forth, no honor to me is greater than to have the people of San Francisco say to me, "You speak for me." And I think every member of Congress would say that. You walk on that floor, there are 435 members, 1 from your district. They've chosen you. So for me, it's an enormous honor to, she called me rank and file.
I didn't call you a backbencher.
Okay.
I could, though. You're not even on any committees.
Rank and file, okay. I'll take that lack of responsibility. Thank you.
Yeah. I imagine it's kind of fun after
it is fun,
all the
but it's, I mean,
responsibility that you've
It's not as if we have AI and all the possibilities of that. We have crypto, which we have to address. We have fentanyl, which is devastating to our communities. And we have so many issues that are, in some respects, fresh on the scene, that it's not as if you're having a day at the beach or something.
Sure. Well, what does the future hold for you? Is this, how many terms do you think you'll continue to serve?
I'm not prepared to make any announcements here today. I just take one election at a time. Right now, we really must win this election. I wear with pride this pin that was given to me after I, almost 1 year ago to today, visited Ukraine. Their democracy is really further at risk. The invasion by the Russians, the violation of sovereignty, of borders, and the rest of that, and the incredible, incredible spirit of the people of Ukraine to fight for democracy, to fight for their freedom. And in doing so, they're fighting for freedom writ large, for democracy writ large. And they were holding the line. It's interesting because, what's his name in Russia, Putin, he thought that 3 days into the fight, he was going to be going into Kyiv. And this year, our president was in Kyiv almost a year to the day when Putin thought he was going to be there. So again, it is in our interest to promote democracy, support democracy, strengthen democracy globally, and also to be a good example to the world in how we respect democracy at home. So we have important work to do, all of us. And the one I love about Joe Biden is he listens. He respects what people have to say. And that's what a democracy is about. And if I just may tell you this story. When I was young, in school, I went to the inauguration of John F. Kennedy. Now, I don't know if any of you were born, if your parents were born. You read about in the history book what he said that day. He said, to citizens of America, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You learned that in school, right, all of you? What was in the history books for you is my youth. So the next sentence, the very next sentence in the speech, which just took me just to the heights, but you didn't hear much about it. The very next sentence, he said, to the countries of the world, ask not what America can do for you, but what we can do working together for the freedom of mankind. It's so beautiful. Not condescending, collaboration, working together. And that's exactly what Joe Biden did in the coalition building in support of Ukraine. Listening, respecting, working together on a timetable, and with the resources necessary to help protect the democracy, to help the Ukrainians protect their democracy as they proved so worthy in that fight. But I said to the president, this is your John F. Kennedy moment. Maybe there are others. I'm talking about this one right now. What we can do working together. And that's what a democracy is about, too, is respecting the decisions of other countries that are democratic and make their decisions as well. So America's role in the world is so important. And for a while there, it was questioned, shall we say. And now we're back.
Speaking of work that has to be done, the Republicans have put forth their initial proposal for lifting the debt ceiling. Mm-hmm. What do you think of it?
I think it's terrible. Let me tell you this. In the 20 years, leader, speaker, I have been in 19 encounters of the debt ceiling kind. This is hard because this is what we have done. This is like paying the bill. It's not about future spending. But they want to make it look like it's about future spending. No, we did. Actually, the Republican tax cut for the wealthy, 83% of the benefits going to the top 1%, on the Trump tax bill cost us $2 trillion added to the national debt. That has to be paid for. When he was president, I don't say those two words in the same sentence, but when he was, was president, I, as Speaker, lifted the debt ceiling 3 times to accommodate the spending, because there's nothing, I don't know if traumatic is the word, for the world to see that America does not pay its bills. In the Constitution, it says the full faith and credit of the United States should not be questioned. Just the questioning of it in earlier years, in 2011, 2013, lowered our credit rating. This raises rates for people at the kitchen table, going back to the most important table in America. And so, but what's curious about it is the Republicans have a bill that will cut veterans' benefits, food, like 1 million seniors thrown off of Meals on Wheels, cutting services to people, to our veterans to whom we owe so much. But the list goes on and on about the cuts that they will make in the future, having nothing to do with paying our debts from the past. We could always have a debate about budget. We believe the federal budget should be a statement of our national values. What we care about as a nation should be how we allocate our resources. We have a difference of opinion between the two parties in that regard. And in their bill, speaking of differences of opinion, they cut a lot of what we did on the IRA, the funding to save the planet. So that it's, have some different values there. You're either there for the fossil fuel industry, or you're there for our children and their future, the air they breathe. It's a health issue. It's an economic issue, good paying green jobs. It's a security issue to protect countries that are affected by climate change from conflict over habitat or resources and the rest. And it's a values issue. What we have a moral responsibility to pass the planet on to future generations in the most wholesome way. I believe it's God's creation and we have to be good stewards, but even if you don't share the religious part of it, we all have a moral responsibility to the children and to future generations. So they cut that in the bill, cut veterans, cut seniors, cut food, not just seniors' food, but food for other people. So we don't think it's a statement of values. They won't get any Democratic vote. They could have just said, we wouldn't probably love it, but we would have supported, just lift the debt ceiling. We don't like the timing or this or that, but you know what? Nothing is worse than having the debt ceiling not lifted. And no. So if they're going to pass it, they're going to have every Republican vote to do it, but it won't go anyplace. It won't go anyplace. But it's a good place to watch, to see what the values are. When we had this debate before, that we're almost to the end of our time, but you should know this. In one of the times when I was, I was leader, I wasn't even speaker at the time, we were trying to cut $200 billion in a conversation we're having. So I said, well, why don't we cut $38 billion in incentives to the 5 big oil companies, 5 biggest oil companies, not the small ones, but the 5 biggest oil companies. They have a $38 billion incentive to drill. This past year, they will have made $8 trillion. They do not need a taxpayer incentive to drill. To which the Republicans said, why would we take $38 billion away from big oil when we can just cut Pell Grants by that much? So that's the debate of the budget, and that's what we spend a lot of time on. Our time is up here now. It's lovely to be with you.
Don't even need me here. Speaker.
Did Molly do a great job?
Thank you very much.